What's good, everybody? My name is Jay Fatty. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about recording audio inside FL Studio and some of the latency issues that you can have. So depending on what audio interface you're using, or if you're even using an audio interface, you will have some or barely any latency when you're recording. All latency is like lag from the audio input and the DAW. For example, sometimes your audio, when you're trying to record it, if you have a high buffer size, is going to sound late compared to the beat, all right? Now, to check your buffer size, you can go to options and audio settings. And depending on if you're, like I said, if you have an audio interface or if you're just using FL Studio ISO, you can choose different buffer lengths. Okay, so mine's currently at 512, and that's going to have about 11 milliseconds of latency. But it's not, that's 11 milliseconds, so it's really not too bad. But then you can go into your buffer settings. I'm using Euphoria UMC 404 HD by Behringer, so that's why my control panel looks like this. Whatever audio interface you're using, you should be able to change your buffer length. So if you go down to a smaller number, it's going to be less latency, but it will be more CPU usage. So if you don't have a really good computer, you won't be able to go down super low, because then you'll start getting cracks and pops when you're playing your song because your CPU can't keep up. So I like to keep mine, if I'm recording and I really want it right on, I'll just go down to like 32 samples, maybe even 64, but I usually keep it at 512 and it's usually fine. Now, if you're in FL Studio ASIO mode, you only can go down to 256. That's the lowest you can go down to, which should still work. Like I said, you got 512 here as well, which should be fine, but you can definitely tell if you have your mic on while you're trying to record. If it's on and monitoring so you can hear your voice, you can definitely tell it's off. So that is definitely annoying. I would definitely recommend getting an audio interface ASAP so you can get the ASIO driver for that interface. Because if I need to record and have my voice be exactly on, I don't like hearing my voice when I record, but I know some people do like hearing their voice when they record. So if you want it to be exactly on, you're going to want your buffer length definitely a super low number. Like I said, you could definitely get away with like 32. I mean, if you think you can go to 8 samples, if your track doesn't have a lot of VSTs, a lot of things open on it, you should be all right. And if your PC is decent, but like I said, I would keep it at 512, and if you really want to hear your voice and have it be on, go down to 64 samples or 32 samples, and you should be good. Now, in some cases, if you don't have an audio interface and you can't go down that low on the buffer length to make the latency disappear, sometimes you'll have to use the offset. All right, there's a global offset right here, so you can set it in milliseconds. So if you know how much milliseconds you're in buffer time, so for example, we're 11 milliseconds of latency, I could offset this negative 11 milliseconds. Now, when I'm listening to my voice, though, it won't sound like it's on, but it'll be on when it's recorded. So that's why I don't use that, because if you do want to really hear your voice, like I said, you're just going to have to try to eliminate that latency by messing with your buffer length. Now, that was the global setting to offset stuff. You can also just offset any recording or place a recording inside here by clicking this input latency, and you can set it in milliseconds, samples, and beats. So if this is your mic right here, you would definitely set it right here in milliseconds. And once again, you would look at your buffer size to determine how much latency you have. But yeah, that's a really short, quick video explaining latency inside FL Studio and how to counteract that. I hope this video brought you value. If it did, please leave a like, hit subscribe, and hit the little bell. Make sure you stay safe, stay striving, and always be getting it. Much love, y'all. Peace.